At Fulton Elementary School in the city of Pittsburgh, the teachers were involved in human trafficking of the children. I don't know whether they met in the evenings and made deals about it. They certainly knew at the police department that children were being trafficked. And they came up with enforcement codes through schools and unions. We ended up with a situation where if you are an extremist, were for the Vietnam War, voted for Nixon, um, wanted to kill communists, and was a wrestling champion who put down weak, beat children, and was a hustler when it came to capitalism. You would be rewarded by the people who had money from the Trump to the Caesar England. Whereas if you petition for public education, for fairness, for equity, you would be regarded as a sucker. And a second line of militarists would come and confiscate all of your property. They would come for your sister. And this, of course, was the people who called themselves the radical left. And both wings operate out of the Veterans Administration. The Trumpington line of capitalist exploitation and the left wing so-called Marxist line of control and exploitation work together in a non-aggression pact. And the children are just simply forced into one or the other. There is a third area of civics, which is the religious groups, the Jewish and the Christian parochial schools, who teach people only to get married and to engage in wedlock, are people who have careers that are safe and provided that they don't question anything. And this is the way it's meant to be arranged from 50s psychology. This is the Bush United States. Now, I know that quite a number of people have discovered remorse about Gaza. Rosine Monteleone, when she came on to me for both the Green Party Marxists and Trump, they worked together on it. I mean, that's a very good example of how clearly it's organized as a flanking operation. She said, I've discovered to cry. Gallaudet University made note and was a little bit peeved about, because they know about what Gwiener has been doing to Jimmy Carrey. When during COVID, crying cafes became commercially known in Japan. I have discovered to cry is like profiting from tears, as though it's, as one of the cowards involved said, the blessing of Tiaza. As though you go into pay $10 and be given a reason to cry. Oh, such sweetness is the nectar of the tears, and so on. I have told people for a long time that I was kidnapped and tortured as a child. Nobody protested. Nobody cared. They wriggled their fingers at me because some girls rejected me as a lover. It was their decision half the time, you know. I mean, I moved on from relationships to it's the way Pittsburgh was. My sister got involved and then disinvolved with men who were, some of them gave her a hard time. But that was Pittsburgh. And I don't think that anybody had any justification making it out to be unusual in my case, except that I'm deaf. So they had a guilt complex, and when they have a guilt complex, you're in trouble. If they feel guilty about what they did to you, you better watch out. Now they've smashed Gaza. But what Seattle did was they poached me. They said, oh, they were like Roger Waters, come little boy, we'll give you protection from abuse. Ichiro Suzuki knows who you are. And then as soon as I got here, they went and spat on me, just like Roger Waters. And I have Parkinson's now. Nobody ever sends me flowers. Nobody ever inquires, how are you, Jimmy? Nobody who knew me ever sends me a card, a nicety. And apparently the reason is that Hollywood has been using me from the very beginning. And like the teachers at Fulton Elementary School, the people who pretended to be my friends operate behind my back. And you can cyber stalk my Gmail for years and years and years, and you will see that I get nothing in the way of genuine friendship. And I'm certainly not going to now that I have Parkinson's. And they probably distance themselves. Well, it's his disabilities. It's his, and they made it out. One of the things that they said was I have these obsessions that I talk about. You know, the people who knew me in high school would be very remiss to say that these things came from my mind. What happened was that Greg Carl's doctrines fell into my hands, and I realized what kind of sporting event was going on about me. I tried to learn enough about it to catch up with it, and it was just one thing after another. But the people who ignored that I was tortured and the context in which I was tortured are now sitting pretty in their tears for Gaza, when in fact, in 1993, I publicly pushed to have the Israeli Mountie banks prosecuted before it was too late. Seattle went along with John Shulman, who was arrested in an $8 million museum heist. Owen Johns is still can't bear the thought of anybody saying anything about Leslie Katz, apparently, because she's a Jewish girl who was on the right side of the sophomore rejecting lover line. I was unworthy of her. What they didn't tell you was that I didn't do anything wrong to her. And her gang was poaching me. They had used a neurological poison on me in an effort to make me look like I was crying too much, and therefore a suspicious persona, who they had every reason to follow with cameras and make pornography for Yoko Ono about. And of course, there was something menacing going on. I had been kidnapped and tortured, and these people did use me on Mount Desert Island and Venus flytrap around the AIDS attack. And what they did with John Lennon was play a shell game. Oh, this is about John Lennon. What you didn't know, little boy, was that Yoko Ono was following you to poach you because of a John Lennon connection, which had nothing to do with me either. Nothing. It was no more possible for me to think in that way than it would have been before I read Greg Carl's epistles to comprehend the degree and magnitude of the sporting event that this flanking operation from the VA is engaging in with regard to me.